It's Thursday. It's 8 p.m. I'm Daz.
And I'm Martin.
And this is a Loaded Football Special.
You're the joker, the expert, the voice, but you're one of the crowd. A vision of weakness you don't...
Well, here we are.
Back again.
Not 100% sure what's happened. Have we gone back in the TARDIS? Or did we not log off from last night? I can't remember. Well, you haven't logged off because you've been doing a lot of work in the background. But yeah, here we are. So for those who have dialed in and are watching, this is a Loaded Football Special, and pretty special in the fact that it's coming live through your television box on our very own channel at Loaded HQ. So fair play, those who are going to jump on, those who are going to watch. We've been kind of obviously doing the Loaded Football Weekly off the back of Steve Ray's channel. Myself and Daz, obviously Chris and Ritchie, who unfortunately can't be on tonight. Chris is out somewhere in Merseyside delivering Avon, and Ritchie, I believe, is in his part-time job as a welcomer in B&Q, because I think he spends that much time painting and decorating. They've given him a job. But obviously the two boys can't be on tonight. We do have a couple of special guests who we will bring on. But this is the first show. We've kind of done a bit of work and decided to go off and spread our wings and see whether we can create a bit of content. So we've got Loaded Football Weekly that we're gonna continue with. We'll still be popping in and out of the NUFC Matters stuff with Steve and the guys for Match Day. And we'll start to introduce a few shows as we move on. And one of them, much like this, will probably be a weekly kind of Newcastle show. Not sure if that's what people want to see or hear from us. But look, whack it in the comments. Do you think it's a good idea, not a good idea? Is it market saturated? But look, we're going to have a good chat about things tonight. So I will hand you over to Daz, who will let you know what's going on.
Okay. So we really don't have a plan for tonight. We just made this up. You might think that we never have a plan, but we usually do. But we'll just wing it, as Martin usually does, I should say. So yeah, exactly. let's bring on a few guests. Here is Martin has a guest as well.
Has a guest already, a special guest.
Let's bring on Nathan from Burnley, a familiar face
nice.
in UFC Matters fans. And here's Peter, who loves a rant, from Leicester. Welcome, lads.
Heard about this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we seen the subjects and we seen obviously what's been going on, we were sitting there today, and in fairness, I put a lot of pressure on Daz because I was kind of we obviously did the show last night. I was kind of had gone to bed. I was laying there. I was like, man, we should probably do a Newcastle show, with everything that's going on. And I thought it's too late to text Daz, and about 30 seconds later, he texts me. And then this morning I got up and it was the first thing I did. So I said, how would it be feasible if we could kind of do a show on the channel? And this is it. This is a result. I ran scrambling and texted the two boys around midday and said, listen, you boys want to come on and have a chat, a rant, and give out about Bruce and all things Newcastle? And they kindly agreed. So fair play, Nate and Pete. Thanks very much for coming on at very short notice and helping us out on the very first one on our own channel. So thanks very much,
cheers,
lads.
I think, lads, it's time to set the tone. This is our topic of discussion, especially for the first half. As per our cover, Martin, do you want to walk us through the latest happenings that broke last night on Loaded Football?
Yeah,
while we were live on air.
Pete's rubbing his hands. I probably should have just handed it over to him, really, and give him the half hour.
No.
Look, obviously, news broke last night of an altercation. Craig Hope broke the story literally while we were live on air last night. I was scrambling to get onto Twitter to kind of fill everybody in and trying to type a message to Daz to get it up on air. So obviously Craig Hope broke the news that Steve Bruce and Matt Ritchie had an altercation. Bruce had been on the training pitch or gone to the training pitch and barged into Matt Ritchie. Obviously, there was a rush for bacon sandwiches or something on the training pitch. And obviously, it all kind of went from there. Expletives were exchanged. Matt Ritchie allegedly, which has now since been confirmed by the club, not the language or use of, but that the altercation took place. Pretty much told Steve Bruce, "You've kind of done fuck all for me," and it kind of went from there. So certainly more has followed through today. Newcastle United, the club, have officially confirmed that the event did happen, and pretty much gave Craig Hope a bit of stick for releasing fair play Ritchie. Gave Craig Hope a fair bit of stick for releasing the story. But Bruce has been called, pretty much been called a coward by Ritchie. We know he's obviously had issues in performances. I suppose a few quick stats: 7 wins in 26 so far, 5 draws, 14 losses, win rate of 27%, a loss rate of 54. We've obviously got our 3 main guys out, injured: ASM, Miggy, and Wilson all out. So our attacking intent has gone. We've got the likes of Gale and Carroll, Anderson, a few others on the bench. We have over the season so far, messed around with formations. I think certainly on one of the shows we've done prior, Pete, I think we spoke. We had spoken about the amount of players. I think with 35 players have been pushed through rotationally. We've played 4 or 5 different formations, and then Steve Bruce obviously came up with this wonder ball a few weeks back, which was, now 18 months on, I'm going to do it my way. So I suppose, you look back at it and go, okay, well, what the hell were you doing for the first 18 months then? You can look at last season and go, okay, maybe he did okay, but he took on a squad that was fairly well drilled, and we kind of finished out in 10th. But it's been a very, very quick decline with both players and club and team since then. We now sit in 17th. Obviously, 2 results tonight that I'm sure a lot of people were looking out. Obviously, West Brom have been beaten by Everton and Fulham have been beaten by Spurs. But to such a degree now that Newcastle fans are sitting looking at other teams' results. And I think we're probably at a point at the minute, in particular with Bruce, that he obviously doesn't get on, it would appear, with Jones, who's been brought in to help out. He won't drop players who are seemingly out of form in Shelvey and other players. There's certainly would appear to be no leadership on the pitch, and Bruce is now at a point where he's blaming players and everybody around him for everything that's gone on. So tonight, as it stands, the club have said that the matter is dealt with. It's alleged that Matt Ritchie has apologised to Steve Bruce, which I'm slightly baffled as to why he's had to done that. There it is. Yeah, exactly. He looks happy. But there are obviously serious issues in the team, in the dressing room, with Steve Bruce, with Graham Jones, and certainly comments that are coming out tonight from other journalists appear that Mike Ashley is not going to take any action. But Lee Charnley did turn up at the training ground today and give poor old Stephen Bruce a bollocking. So that's the current situation, lads. It's a mess. We're sat in 17th, and I think as it currently stands, unless, the 3 teams below us somehow miraculously start picking up those wins and taking advantage of the mess we're in, we're really reliant on those 3 not doing that factor to keep us up. I think if they do, then I think we could be well in trouble, but that's just my opinion. But that's where we're at. So look, let's throw it open. I'm sure Daz has got a few comments, but I'm particularly eager to hear Peter from Leicester's rants, because I'm sure he'll have a heap to say, as will Nate. So that's where we are. If you are watching, whack us up with the comments. Daz will fire them on as we are. We'll try to answer what we can, and I'm sure the boys will as well. So if you've got anything, you want to make a comment, you want to have a shout out, get it up and we'll put it on. But yeah, let's talk Bruce and where we are with Matt Ritchie. What happened? Anybody? Pete, go on.
Who'd like to go first?
Where do we start? It's look, it's an absolute mess. Let's be honest. We're an absolute mess of a club that is like hurtling towards relegation. That's just how it is at the moment. For me, right now, I think it's going to take a miracle for us to stay in the league. Although I still keep that hope. It's going to be very difficult when you've got a manager like Steve Bruce and provoking your senior members of your squad. That's got some massive ramifications there for how the rest of the season's going to pan out. And I don't think we've heard the last of this. I've got to be honest. You touched on Matt Ritchie and why he would have apologised. For me, I expected it to happen, and the reason being is because I think Matt Ritchie's been very smart in this situation. I think he's done the right thing. First and foremost, he didn't react to being provoked. It was very clear that Craig Hope said that he wasn't physical towards Bruce at all. So he's kept his credibility by how he's dealt with that situation. And I wouldn't have expected anything different from Matt Ritchie, because he is people can criticise him for how he's been playing in the last year, but nobody can criticise his professionalism. And he's shown that, and that's come through. The reason why I think he's apologised is because he knows if he'd have not apologised, he wouldn't have kicked the ball again for Newcastle United, and that's not what he wants. He wants to still play for the club. He wants to have a say in what goes on in the rest of the season. And if he apologises and does, the smart, he plays the smart move, which he has, it allows him to still be considered for the games upcoming. And I fully expect him to be in the squad on Sunday. I think if he's not in the squad, I think that says more about Bruce than it does about Matt Ritchie. And I think he still has a part to play in the rest of this season. And for me, if you're going to play him at any point, you play him now, because you can imagine, you put that picture on where he was bright red kicking off when he'd been subbed off. You want that type of Matt Ritchie in your starting 11, because he will make the difference. There is no doubt about it. Steve Bruce, we've said it before. You asked the question as you were going through some of the facts, Martin, about Steve Bruce and why we haven't been sort of playing this way in this mentality, for 18 months ago. And the reason being is because I've said it before, it's not his tactic. It's not his tactic. It's not his way of playing. He has no way of playing. He has no style. He has no quality in terms of what he projects onto his players. That is, in my opinion, clearly a Graham Jones method, a Graham Jones way of playing, and he is just riding the wave. He's doing all the talks. He's taking all the plaudits when we win. He's pushing all the blame on other people when we lose. And it's an absolute classic Steve Bruce move. And look, he's finished as a manager at the top level. He's finished as a manager, in my opinion, full stop. For me, I don't see him getting another job in football. The way this has gone and the way this season's panned out, I don't see him getting another job in football. But even more so now, showing the absolute lack of professionalism with the way he's handled that situation is an absolute joke. If you've got a situation with a player who wants to speak to you, you don't put it off for 48 hours. You speak to the player. You go in any sort of management. You listen to your employees, you listen to the people that are working in and around you to see what the grievances are and try and work through that. You don't put it off. But it's a classic Steve Bruce move. He doesn't want to take any responsibility. He wants to put it on everybody else. And he's an absolute disgrace. He's a disgrace to the city. It's a disgrace to the club. And it's a disgrace to any elite manager at Premier League level. Because he's making a mockery of Premier League management right now with the way he's acting, and it's even worse the fact that he's getting away with it. That's the thing; he's allowed to get away with it. I put out there. Go on.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think one of the big things for me, like obviously we Craig Hope was on TalkSport this morning around about 11 o'clock, and it's obviously been firing around Twitter. I've listened to it. We would love to have played it for numerous reasons, but probably don't want to get banned on our first ever show. But I listened to Craig Hope and I listened to Simon Jordan afterwards, and I think fair play to Craig Hope, because he kind of gave Jim White and in particular Simon Jordan both barrels, because we've had this narrative from the likes of Simon Jordan, who allegedly is a bell end, but we've had this narrative of Simon Jordan kind of sticking up for Steve Bruce. And, I certainly remember listening to Simon Jordan on TalkSport around 6 months ago and him bigging up Bruce, saying, he's been backed. He's got the respect of the players. He's well liked, he's well drilled. He's a good manager. And, now that narrative is starting to change. But I listened to him this afternoon, and Craig Hope, I thought, was very even keeled in saying, in particular to Simon Jordan, listen, with all due cause, you're looking at one game, in not in perspective. Craig Hope is in the area, looking at the games week in, week out, looking at Bruce, looking at the players, looking at the demise of the team and how much we've regressed. And Simon Jordan really got shot down. But what was interesting for me in Simon Jordan's piece was his retort was, well, Bruce was never going to succeed, and that was because the supporters have never liked him. And then he gets into the rhetorical, which is, and that's down to Rafa. And, I just kind of listened to it and I thought, well, fair play for Craig Hope, because he kind of laid it out both barrels, and he was very factual, passionate, and gave a very, very good account of himself. And I thought that, the second half piece of it with Simon Jordan talking to go back to Rafa shows that in particular, people like Simon Jordan and TalkSport and other places just seem to continue this narrative. Now, obviously Simon Jordan went, okay, the result against Brentford for Steve Bruce wasn't great. If they get beat off West Brom, it's not great. If this happens, it's not great. But, he's still doing okay, but the supporters don't like him. So therefore that's a problem. But I'd be interested, obviously we get Nathan's view on that, but I'd be interested just to hear, did you listen to the interview? What was your thoughts on it, Pete and Nathan? And, I thought Hopey, kind of covered himself really well, but, what's the view on the likes of Simon Jordan and the narrative that's been going on? And is it Bruce's fault because as fans, we've not supported him? Or is it, certainly if I look at historical, you've got, Bruce has had this issue at every club he has gone to. He's had this degenerative style of management at Villa, at Sunderland. Okay, he got Hull up on a promotion from the Championship, but they were swiftly back down again. Ellis Short pulled the trigger on Steve Bruce to save Sunderland from going down. But Mike Ashley doesn't seem so. Bruce has got this, obviously history of relegation battled teams where the team under his control has gone to demise rapidly throughout seasons. And we as Newcastle fans, I think we've rightly called that out, outside of pundits for the last certainly the last 16 months or more, where we've said this is only going one way. But yet the pundit piece, probably apart from maybe a couple on Sky and a few others, Jake Humphrey and some others that I would give a shout out to, have all backed Bruce. So, why is that, lads? Why do people like Simon Jordan seem to think that Bruce is a good guy and doing a good job, where the stats clearly show it's bullshit? Nate?
Yeah, I think with that, there's this idea that goes around that I think some certain people will say that Steve Bruce has got a lot of friends in the media. He's sort of like an old, like we've talked about before, is one of the last remaining ones of that kind of old boys club, that old style of manager. So I think that to a certain degree carries him so far. I think the other component to that, which I was thinking about today, is that I think a lot of these reporters, a lot of these sort of media presenters, they really don't like sort of Newcastle, and this, they've got this idea that they think we're We always want to be above our station. They've got this idea that we want to be challenging for the top 4, top 5, top 6, whatever you want to call it. And I think they've got this sort of, I don't even know if they're aware of this sort of bias or whether it's like a subconscious bias or one thing and another, but I think they've got this sort of subliminal bias towards us that it could be anyone in there. It could be anyone doing a terrible job as Bruce is. They'll still have this some sort of level of kind of disharmony towards us because we want better than what we're seeing on the pitch. I think one of the things we talked about with Bruce being, it was the narrative earlier on in the season that Bruce was a good man manager. I think on a lot of I sort of poured cold water on that on one of the on quite a few of the match day lives that we did earlier in the season, where it's abundantly clear that he's not a good man manager. You look at the way that he's handled the Longstaff brothers. We were clamouring to get Matty Longstaff to sign a new contract, and we've not seen him since. I saw a little video that someone put on the NUFC hashtag. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and it was like a little montage of Sean Longstaff from a few seasons back, and he looked unplayable. Like there was little cuts of him getting the ball into feet against Man City's midfield and turning round and turning them inside out, knocking balls left and right into the channels. He looked poles apart from what he is at the moment, and you're not telling me that's not down. That's not the natural progression of his career. That's due to mismanagement. And then you have the likes of I know Simon Jordan today said one of his arguments was that you've got people like Shelby saying that he's the best manager he's ever worked for, and the easy answer to that is that we've all worked in places where there's if we all worked in the same place, we'd have a very different opinion on what a good manager makes. To one person, it might be the manager that lets you piss about all day and lets you have days off, lets you come in, have 2 days off after you get an arse kicking at the weekend. Then that, to some people, that might be a good manager. To people who want to progress in their career and to move up the career ladder and to take things to the next level, that's not a good manager. So, people, I think that tells you all you need to know about our vice captain John Joe Shelby. That tells you everything you need to know about him. I think I did listen to the piece in full today, and to me, like it's easy to kind of say this, but there's nobody to blame other than Bruce, and it's as Craig Hope said, it's a chain of events that goes right back to Saturday evening. It could have been dealt with and done then. As a manager, you look at people talked about, like Bruce is a good man manager, but you look at and people talk about Rafa Benitez and they say that, he's very harsh. And I think it was Gerrard or Carragher, they've said that it was hard to get close to him because he's quite a cold character and not a very personable character. And I think I recall a story about Fernando Torres getting a hat-trick in a game, and when he came off the pitch, the first thing he said to him was that you should have had 4, you should have had 5 because you should have hit that one near post, you should have got your head on that one, headed that one down, that kind of thing. And you think, that's not a great man manager. But I'd say what Rafa would never do, he'd never throw his players under the bus in the end of a game press conference like Bruce has done. And that's the measure of the man that we're dealing with here with Bruce, is that is him in a nutshell. There's nobody to blame other than him. I think in that, at the end of the game, we could have dealt with that in a number of ways. He, as the manager, was in a position to either de-escalate that completely or just stop it from escalating whatsoever. We had the captain coming out, Jamal Lascelles coming out saying, what did he say? I'm aware that there's like a miscommunication. I'm going to go into the dressing room and find out what happened. If we've got a harmonious dressing room, that message isn't getting out to the cameras. There's no way that gets said to camera.
Yeah.
So like for him to say that is very worrying. Like from there, we've got an extraordinary chain of events where Bruce comes out and sort of trashes several players. He could have protected them, but like Bruce's conduct, and not only in that isolated incident, but his conduct throughout the season, when the going gets tough, that's what he does. He lashes out at anyone and anybody that he can do as Pete said, to deflect that blame away from himself. And I think that's the measure of anyone for me in life, is how they respond in a crisis. And you don't get to see the real person unless the chips are down and your backs are against the wall, and that's where you see people's true character, and that's what we've seen this week with Bruce.
Exactly, Nate. And I'm just going to cut in there and say that there was a mistake. It all started from this, what I'm calling a careless whisper, and we all know the chain of events after that. And he wasn't big enough to come out and own his mistake, take the blame himself and his team, but instead pointed the blame at Ritchie, the keeper, and so on and so forth. Like he didn't own it. He tried to pass the buck, and Ritchie was right to try and fight his corner and go back on it. So yeah, it's just bad management, really. He's kind of a bad leader.
Exactly, and I think as Nate said, I think that picture there, obviously Ritchie bringing it on. The problem was that what stemmed from that, and I think Pete might be able to explain it a bit more, but certainly from what I watched was, Ritchie was trying to get the message, literally gets himself onto the pitch in the wrong position before he even, I think he managed to maybe tell Hayden what was going on, at which point Shelvey takes a quick free kick, and our right back, who needs to move further down the pitch because of a change of formation, doesn't get the message. So when Wolves eventually break, they get down the pitch, we're completely out of position, and they obviously score. So, Pete, obviously you were watching the match with us and seeing what went on. Who's to blame for all of that? I personally think the players have a little bit of responsibility. I think Shelvey has a responsibility not to maybe take the free kick as quick, maybe delay slightly, or do something. What's your turn on it? What do you think should have happened?
Okay, I'm not going to be as critical of John Joe Shelvey for taking the early free kick, because he was on the pitch. He was in the game. He wasn't aware of the tactical changes. I don't think any player on the pitch was at any point that there was going to be a significant tactical change. So he wouldn't have known. My only issue, and I said it in our chat the other day, I said the only issue I had with Shelvey is that it was a god-awful free kick that he took. It literally was punted into Joe Linton, who has the worst touch that I've seen since Lukaku. It's not the person, when you're holding a lead, that's not the person you want to be holding up the ball. There were better options there. There was Willock, Hayden and Ritchie, all within a 2-yard area that was a 10-yard pass into their feet, which we could have kept possession. So that's what I was annoyed with Shelvey about, not necessarily about taking it early, because he wouldn't have known. I actually did take issue with Ritchie, if I'm honest with you, because he knew that spot at right wing back, right back, whatever you want to call it, it needed to be filled. He knew that coming onto the pitch. Now, knowing that Jacob Murphy, and it was highlighted in Carragher's piece on Sky, he would have known that Murphy was the opposite end of the pitch. So for me, as I've played the game, naturally you would just cover that position until the ball's out of play, and then you'd make the switch. Goal kick, throw in, whatever it was, wasted a bit of time, make the switch, and then you play your game. But he's gone right up into an attacking area that's covered already by 2 other people, like I said, Willock and Hayden. And they're all standing within such close proximity, it was a bit pointless him even being there. And that was the thing that I was frustrated about. Ultimately, it does stand with Bruce, though. As it's been well documented, there are no fans in the stadium. It doesn't take a lot to bellow out to Murphy, switch over, come over to the right-hand side. You're playing here. It doesn't take a lot. It doesn't even take a lot for Steve Bruce to shout to Shelvey, hold the free kick, hold it up.
Do you not think if that's happening, if they're making such a big change like that, the game's stopped, we've got a free kick in their area, why not just hold on to Ritchie for a moment, for 2 moments, and say, you here, you there, and move the team around. Yeah. Don't leave it to a player to do it. Like, if it's a subtle instruction that he needs to convey in someone's ear, then fair enough. But if you're making sweeping changes to the formation, to the back 4 especially, hold him for 1 moment and tell have Jones halfway down the touchline if need be, out of the box, and telling people where to be.
Exactly. The substitution's been highlighted by the ref, so the ref knows that player's coming on. All you would do, and look, I'm a football manager at Sunday League level, so I do it all the time. If we're trying to hold something, is that if I'm making a sub, I will hold the player off the pitch until the instructions are made, then let him on. Because the game can't start until until he's entered the field of play and the transaction of the substitution has been made.
Swap's been made, yeah, exactly.
So it's you're right, Nathan. It's a simple instruction. I threw out there that he may not have wanted to shout those instructions to give it away to Wolves because there isn't no fans, and if he's shouting out the tactical changes, he's making it clear to Nuno Santos that that there are changes being made, and there's an element to understand from that point of view as well. But still, like you want to get those instructions. You're making 4 key changes to players on the pitch. You need to get that out there. You need to get that out there quick. So again, I think it was an element of being poor all round. But like you guys have said, and Nathan touched on it, you've touched on it, Martin, as well. Bruce does not take responsibility whatsoever. There is not one time that I know in the history of Bruce being manager where he's come out and said, "You know what? I take the hit for that. That was my bad. That was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have put that all on my players." There was not one time that he said that. But you can go through the list. You can go to Alex Ferguson. You can go to Pep Guardiola. You can go to Jose Mourinho. You can go to pretty much any other manager, and you can name a time that they've done that to their players, because that's what you do as a manager. You protect your players. You protect your players. You're in a relegation battle. You're fighting for every point. The last thing you want to be doing is throwing your players under a bus. And it wasn't just Ritchie, Dubravka as well on his first game back in God knows how long, right? Joe Linton got it. A young Jamal Lewis, who's still finding his feet in the Premier League and at a brand new club, also got it as well. So he is, it was Darlow the week before at Man United. He is doing this. It's not just a one-time thing. He's doing this a lot. And what are the players thinking about this? We obviously know about Ritchie because of the reaction that came from that, because he's not going to stand for that. But what are these players thinking at the moment? Where is their confidence levels hearing that from their manager on national team in a relegation battle? He's not building those players up. He's decimating them. He's absolutely decimating those players' confidence going into what is our biggest game of the season on Sunday. It's
Sunday's game is massive. It's massive.
I just wanted to add about the Craig Hope thing. I was really, really impressed with Craig Hope, and there's a couple of reasons why I was impressed with him today. The main one is that Jim White and Simon Jordan do not let you get your points across the way you want to. And they always want to have the last word. But I thought he really stuck up for himself and for the Newcastle fans today in what he said. And I listened to it live, and I thought he was really, really impressive. I thought the fact that Simon Jordan went to the likes of Rafa Benitez, and the fact that the fans have never wanted Bruce, all that old rubbish that's been around for God knows how long, just told me everything that I needed to know about Simon Jordan. Is because he didn't have a genuine comeback to anything that Craig Hope had to say. Craig Hope hit the nail on the head with everything that's wrong with our club, everything that's wrong with Steve Bruce, and everything that's wrong with our ownership, right? In what, 10 or 15 minutes? He absolutely hit the nail on the head, and he's not afraid to do so. And we need more journalists that are willing to put their heads on a spike and really put themselves out there for the fans. Because ultimately, we haven't got anyone else fighting our corner. We've known this. We talked about this back in September, October, about how we've got no confidence in Bruce, how our style of play is going to be our downfall. We said all this on Matchday Lives. We said all this on social media. The fans are not stupid. The fans are the smartest people in the club, and they have been for 13 years. And we're just sick and tired of not being listened to, because every time we say and see something, it happens. We're the ones that are proactive. They're the reactive ones, and they're the ones that make the difference. The owners and the people that are managing and running that club.
Pete, as you said, Pete, I think like the excuses that it used to be the Rafa comparisons. It used to be that we love Rafa and we'll never accept anyone else. So then they brought up the win rate. Because the win rate was somewhat comparable, and they'd say, "Oh look, well Bruce has got a better win rate at this point of the season." Now that's passed by. All the other stuff passed by. We looked at stats. They used to bring the stats out, and they'd handpick stats whereby we were better, the better stats that we had under Bruce. But if you look, there's no stat comparisons anymore because none of the stats are better anymore. And so it's gone back to literally the only thing that Simon Jordan's got today is to say that John Joe Shelby said he likes being managed by Bruce, and that because he managed Sunderland or whatever, that we'd never back him, and that's all they've got left in the tank.
You know what? That John Joe Shelby thing's a load of rubbish, right? I even think the fact that some of the I think Craig Hope put it in his piece saying that the players felt that John Joe Shelby was put up to it by the club. I don't think he was. I think that's his genuine opinion of Steve Bruce.
I think that's his opinion as well.
And someone put in the chat earlier in our chat tonight about the fact John Joe Shelby loves a 3-day week.
Yeah,
of course he would. The guy's on 80 something grand a week, and he's having a 3-day week. He doesn't have to work his arse off on a Saturday. Okay, in game. Of course he loves it, and the fact that he's playing games is the reason why Steve Bruce loves. John Joe Shelby loves the fact that he's playing under Steve Bruce right now. Because when he was under a manager that demands more, when he's under a manager that actually is tactically aware, he knew within seconds that John Joe Shelby is not good enough at this level, and it's as simple as that. He might play a decent pass. He might be able to be good in retaining the ball. But actually, in terms of his productivity in a tactically aware team, the guy's finished. He's finished at top level.
I just want to get in on one point, guys. It's just something from about 15 minutes back. And I held off a comment here as well. I held up all the comments because I want to get this in. It's just, I agree with everything you said, Pete, except one thing on the substitution. Why did they not shout? Like there's no one, there's no one in the stadium. Like they should be shouting and roaring. Okay, they don't want to give away their changes, but during the week in their team meetings, they should have like code words for different tactics. They should know who's going to slot in if they need to make that change. And I don't think I know no one knew there was going to be a goal straight away, but I'd give the game away and rather be more solid than the way it worked out. So I'd agree with this comment. Shout it out, make it known, and like Ritchie's no shrinking violet, and there's plenty on them there on the sideline there to get that message out there. There's no excuse for it, I think.
Yeah. Before we move on to looking forward, I suppose if you can look forward to anything and NUFC wise at the minute, does I suppose very very quickly round all of us, will Ashley act if we lose against West Brom? Pete?
I don't think he will. And I'll say really, really as quickly as I possibly can, which will probably take half an hour.
We only planned for an hour tonight now. Don't
I know, sorry. It was
only half time at the moment.
Yeah. It was documented on social media by another journalist probably about an hour and a half ago that it would take the best part of $4 million to write off Steve Bruce's contract.
Get rid of him, yeah.
That's why I don't think he'll get rid of him. I think if he's going to do that, he's going to use summer's budget or transfer budget in the summer to use that $4 million to get rid of him. I don't see Steve Bruce being at our club past this season. You know, I'm not even talking about the takeover right now, but I'm talking about our club preparing for a new season, either in the Premier League or in the Championship. I don't see Steve Bruce at the club. I think they'll get rid of him regardless, but I think that's the reason why he won't get rid of him now.
Yeah, I would agree. Ned?
Yeah, like I'm laughing when you ask that question because it sounds ridiculous, doesn't it, to even suggest that he would still be no, like it sounds like it would be ridiculous to even suggest that he's still in a job now. And so much has gone before, and I was laughing to myself because I was thinking, you know, like he's not gonna get sacked even if they win our most winnable game. I think that's the thing for me. This game that we're going into this weekend is probably like our best chance at getting another 3 points at all this season, arguably, to be honest. And we're going into it full of disharmony. We're going into it upside down, aren't we? As a club, as a organised club, we're upside down. So, like, if you're Fulham and if you're West Brom, you're licking your lips at looking at who's above you. If we were like a compact, together, resilient unit, then you'd be thinking, you know, like you'd be thinking, oh, maybe we're not going to get out of this. But those two teams are looking at us and thinking we can have these. Like we'll overlap these. the way that they're going, and they must be licking their lips at all this happening this week, because it couldn't have come at a worse time. But to answer your question, I don't think he goes this weekend if we lose. He should have gone. He should go this weekend if we lose. He should have gone last weekend. He should have gone every week before that. But I don't think he will.
Before we jump into that, I don't think he'll go. I think we've obviously got a CEO in Charnley who doesn't know how to handle the situation. I think the fact he went to the training ground today and gave him a bollock and says it all. So I can't. Yeah, he did. Yeah, apparently he went and told him off.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't think he's capable of it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Well,
don't see it.
Apparently he's been there the last couple of days. Apparently he was there Wednesday, and he was there again today. But like Martin said,
I'd say that was twice on his own because the fucking players weren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But I think that tells you everything about it. Is that any other club would have got rid of Steve Bruce after we lost to Sheffield United? No manager at any other club in the Premier League would have survived past that point. Even he was resigned to the fact that he was going, and he didn't, and he wasn't sacked. The fact that Charnley's gone in today after a Premier League elite manager supposedly has been physically provoking one of his players. The fact that he's been told off, given a slap round the wrist, rather than told to pack his bags, tells you everything about the management of our club.
Yeah.
It tells you everything about it. We are League One level in terms of how we're managed, probably worse than that, non-league, right? In how we're managed as a club, and it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment to us all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
If I just quickly, if I did that at work tomorrow. It's if we were in the office. I'm not in the office, but if I did that to somebody that's directly under me at work tomorrow, I'm off on gardening leave pending investigations or that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The other line of work, people are suspended and they're struck off or sacked immediately if there's enough evidence, that kind of thing. Football, it's a law unto itself, isn't it? It's a soap opera and it's swept under the carpet. And that's why I think Charlie will have been there these last 2 days. It's damage limitation from a PR point of view. It's not. I doubt it will have been a strict bollocking. I think it would have been like, how do we manage this and stop this from getting out to the press? Because from what Craig Hope said today, that seems what they're most asked about is the way that it's been dealt with in the press.
Yeah. Well, I think certainly to finish off on Bruce and Ritchie Gate, I think as far as I seen this evening, I think the club got in touch with Craig Hope and told him that he was reckless for releasing the story, which tells you everything I think you need to know about the hierarchy in NUFC. So at that point, we'll have a little bit of look forward. I think, Daz, we're going to give a couple of shouts out, are we?
Yeah, let's give a shout out to the sponsor, Martin. We put up Mind, Body and Soul, or MBS as I like to call them.
MBS, yeah, linking it in. Yeah, so Mind, Body and Soul, obviously the lads have been with us for a couple of weeks now. The full month of March and full month of April, we've got them for. So Mind, Body and Soul, hit them up on Twitter at Mind, Body and Soul, or on the web, www.mindbodysoul.uk. The guys are out there. Adam and the guys are out there. They are big into helping people with mental health issues, in particularly. They run a service whereby if you want to talk, it's all confidential. Get in touch with them. If you don't want to go directly through them, get in touch with me and Daz. We'll point you in the right direction. But Mind, Body and Soul, get on there, have a look, follow them on Twitter. Get online and have a look as well. They sell a range of merchandise, like the T-shirt I'm wearing here. Thanks very much, lads. And everything that they sell, from beanie hats to T-shirts, hoodies, everything 100% goes to the charities. So give them a look up, get online, buy yourself something snazzy. But thanks very much, Mind, Body and Soul, for looking after us. And we've a few bits coming up in the next few weeks. They've got a few prezzies and stuff for us to do some competitions. So we'll give a few bits away. So thanks to them.
And I want to say something else then, because we're on our new channel and because we've got about 34 subscribers, we'd like a few more. So hit that like button. Thanks for watching, of course. Hit the like button, comment, and also hit that subscribe button. We'd like to grow the channel. So, but thanks for joining us so far, and I hope you like what you're seeing. And there's a lot more to come, as Martin has said at the start. So, guys, I think I know I've ignored a whole lot of comments that came in because they were related to the second half of the show, really. So I will revert back to them. So what I want to bring up now is let's look at the latest table after tonight's games, and want to see. Hasn't changed much. So we got the results went our way with Fulham losing and West Brom losing. We'll also look at we can revert back to these as we go along. We look at the remaining fixtures, what we've got coming up, especially the one on Sunday, and what would you like to see on Sunday? What kind of formation would you like to see? And we'll bear in mind the injuries to our three main attacking threats. So how are we going to handle it?
Go on, Pete.
Those 3 games are massive. They are massive. Those next 3 games, jeez. Oh, honestly, you look at those fixtures and you just think, wow. You can even take Tottenham away. You then go into Burnley. You know what I mean? Those 4 out of those 5 games are our season. That is our season right there. In terms of what I want to see, you know what? I've kind of changed my mind. I think we need to change tactic on Sunday. And I think we need to go with 2 strikers. And for me, I'd be playing Carroll and Gale. I'd be going, you know what, fight fire with fire, because they're going to come out against us. And I think the only way we're going to combat them or douse their confidence in any way is if we go out and attack them and really put them on the back foot and make them think, actually, we can't go all out here because they're going to hit us and they're going to cause us some problems with their end. I think Andy Carroll's going to be key if he starts. I think his physicality, I think he can get a goal. I think Dwight Gale, playing against his old club, should be motivated and up for it to get a goal. So I'll kind of work top to bottom, really. So I'd play Carroll and Gale up top. My 2 wingers, I'd be going Fraser and Murphy. Pace.
Exactly as the comment says here in front of you.
Where's that?
from about 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, I'd be going. Murphy and Fraser. I'd be going Hayden and Willock in the middle. I'd be getting Shelby the fuck out of that team. Get him out. I think you've got enough legs and enough quality to be able to work together in that midfield, playing in midfield too. And then Manquillo, I'm praying. I think he's been training this week. I'm praying he's fit to play Sunday because he'd be straight back in, regardless of whether Kraft's fit or not. And then it'll be a case of, you could toss it up really, because it looks like Fernandez is back fit. He's been training for the last 2 weeks. Do you go Fernandez, Lascelles, or Clark out? 3 out of that. You've got 2 out of that 3. You could go anyone with that, and then you've got. I'd go personally Jamal Lewis left back, and then Martin Dubravka in goal. That would be my team, and I'd go. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just go for it. That is good. That is our easiest game for the rest of this season on Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's our time to get 3 points.
Okay, Ned.
Yeah, for me, like what Pete was saying now about Fernandez being sort of back in the fold, back in contention. The only thing with that is, Fernandez has been fantastic this season, but the only thing with that is, does that give the temptation for him to play 5 at the back all of a sudden if we've got 3 fit centre halves, which I really hope that we don't, because if we do that, what we'll end up with Gale up front on his own. As we saw from a few weeks back, useless up front on his own. There's no point playing Dwight Gale up front on his own because he needs those knockdowns and he needs those.
He's a poacher. He didn't fit how we set up against Chelsea at all.
Completely lost, wasn't it?
It wasn't the right tactics for him. Yeah.
So yeah, and arguably there isn't a better person for him to be playing alongside than Andy Carroll. Andy Carroll will give him exactly what he needs. People have been critical of Carroll this season, and I was earlier on in the season when we were putting him up front on his own, because none of our strikers look good on their own, apart from Callum Wilson, because he's the only one who's like intelligent to play that role on his own up front. And even he struggled at times with the zero service that he's had at times. But I don't think there's those 2 up front together, Carroll and Gale, it'd be perfect for Gale, because as we saw from towards the end of last season. He hasn't lost that striker's instinct. When he came back after Project Restart, he was very handy, and he played really well for me. So I think to get the best out of him, he needs to be up there with him. I'm worried that Joe Linton will probably play because I think Bruce seems to like to slot him into the team however he can. Although Joe Linton wasn't terrible at the weekend, I still think Carroll and Gale would be the best option for us. And then if he needs to change it, if Carroll gets a bit leggy later on in the game, then I'd change it. But for me, Carroll was fantastic in the first game against Arsenal in the Cup. I thought he was excellent. And then a few games after, he was the only one who played well. I can't remember which game it was now, but he was the only one who was getting stuck in, and he was I think it was the Villa game actually. But yeah, and then for me, like Pete said at the back, I hope Mankio's back because Kraft's been a real letdown on that at that right back position for us. Everyone that he's played against, I mean, he's played against some good players in recent weeks. We talked about that on Saturday, didn't we? You know, he's had Havertz and Rashford to deal with in recent weeks, but he's looked decidedly poor. Anyone with a bit of pace gets the better of him. It doesn't take much. Anyone to drop a shoulder and a burst of pace and they passed him. So that's something that we can't afford to have it going into this business end of the season. But for me, Mankio, for his limitations, he's always a consistent performer. Consistency is what we need at this point of the season. Lewis, I think for me it'd be a toss up between Lewis and Paul Dummett. I think if you take Lewis out, I think maybe that's his confidence shot. And then that'll probably be the end. That'll probably be the end of him for the season. If he, after the comments that Bruce made at the weekend, if he drops Lewis thereafter, that won't do any good for the young lad. I don't think so. Yeah, for me, I'd agree with what Pete said for the wingers, Murphy and Fraser. I think I'd like to see Anderson given a run at some point, or be in the team, or at least feature. And yeah, like from what I saw from those, like we talked about the Longstaffs earlier on, I'd love to have. There's got to be something to make those two click. They've not lost it overnight. They've not lost the ability to play overnight. And if we're talking about having Longstaff in or Shelby, I'd rather have Sean Longstaff in all day for me, or either of them, to be honest. But I don't know. For me, coming into this tail end of the season, I'd rather have people in there that give a fuck about Newcastle rather than Shelby, whose favourite manager is Steve Bruce, So
3 days a week.
Yeah, exactly.
3 days a week.
Yeah.
3 days a week.
Daz, what would you do, Matt?
Me, I'd go 4-4-2. I wouldn't be sitting back and like hoping to hit them on the break. We have to go for this. Fuck that. We have to go for this now. This is a must-win game. If we lose this, it's downhill from there. So I'd play Carroll and Gale. We don't have much options left. So yeah, Carroll and Gale. Hopefully both of them could get through the 90 minutes first and get on the score sheet. But yeah, all out. Do or die.
Yeah. Do or die. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Pete's and Nathan's setup wise. I think we need to go 4-4-2. I think the thing we need to make sure, though, if we are going to play the likes of Carroll, is we've got to have wingers in there that can cross a ball, because when we have played Carroll, we've not put wingers in who can cross a ball, or we've had him on, we put him on and we've took a winger off. So we need to make sure I think we need Carroll's physicality. I think we need the fact he does bleed black and white. For me at the back, yeah, I think it's either get Manquillo back in, definitely not Kraft. But I think the other change, and I know he scored at the weekend, but I don't want the Cells anywhere near that team at the minute. I'd rather go with Fernandez and Clark, and I know I'll get stick, but I've been saying it all season. He's not the captain for me. And I think we need somebody, Ritchie, okay, whatever's gone on this week, but, I think we need a leader at this point that, okay, if tactics are not right or whatever else, there has to be somebody player-wise to step up on that pitch and pull that 11 together, because if we don't have that, I can guarantee you one thing, given the fact that Allardyce was part of the first 14 years of torture with Mike Ashley, you can bet your bottom dollar that he will be looking at the situation at Newcastle, and he will have that West Brom team absolutely revved up to go at us on Sunday, and he will take great delight in turning us over if West Brom do that. Make no bones. So
The only thing I'd say about the Lascelles thing, and you're right, because actually, as a partnership, they've already proven that Fernandez and Clark are a better partnership. They just genuinely play better together. But you've got, I think if I'm pronouncing his name right, Najee, their new striker that they got in January up front. I think
blue hair.
Yeah, I think he had a goal ruled out today, right at the end or something like that. I wasn't watching it, but he's a difficult player to manage. He's physical, he's good in the air, and I think purely for that reason, I think Lascelles would be better placed to manage him in that situation and let Clark, sweep up everything around him. But as the captain, and with everything that's gone on this week, I think Bruce would be a very, very brave man with all the stick he's getting to drop his captain for this game. But no, as a partnership, you're not wrong, Martin. I think the other two are better, but
a bit stronger maybe. Interestingly, just looking at tonight's game, West Brom set up 4-1 tonight, and I think that the thing that worries me a little bit about this game, again, is the midfield for me, and I've been calling it out all season that we get overrun in midfield and we don't have the legs. And when I look at the four kind of in behind West Brom striker, Conor Gallagher and Maitland-Niles against Shelvey, possibly, or a Hayden or a Willock, scares the shit out of me, if I'm honest, because the game at St James's, Conor Gallagher for me was man of the match, and he ran as ragged. And I do worry about him, but let's hope I'm drastically wrong. But anyway,
I'm just thinking as well, with all this negative again, like if there was a good leader in there, they could turn this negative into a positive now. Say put their foot down and go for it on Sunday. But we'll see what happens. I can't see Bruce going either way, even if we do lose. But we're stuck. We're stuck with who we have. We have to get over the line and survive in the Premier League. And that starts on Sunday.
I don't think he dropped Shelvey. I would be shocked if he dropped Shelvey. No, I can't see it happening. Okay, we're kind of getting towards time. I suppose I'll throw in one last question. Daz may have something else. We'll get your boys' opinions on it. Very, very simple question. Are we staying up or are we staying up or are we going down, lads?
I still believe. I still believe. How I still believe, I don't know after this week and everything that's gone on in the last sort of 24 hours. But I still believe. I look at those fixtures that Daz put up not long ago, and I'm looking at games where I believe that we can get points. We're currently 3 points ahead of Fulham with a game in hand now, and we've got teams in the next 5 to 7 games where we can get points. I'm not even talking about Fulham and Sheffield United at the end of the season. I'm talking about games now. There is potential there to pick up points, even with this squad of players. We're already 3 points ahead. Another win takes us 6 points ahead. A couple of draws in there. You're looking at 8-point gaps. 8-point gaps that Fulham have got to make up with the likes of Liverpool to play, Man City to play. Tough teams still to play, where that's where the pressure comes back on them. We've had the swing now. We've had where we've been very, very comfortable, and Bruce saying that we're not in a relegation battle, where the swing's gone and then it's come back in, and now the emphasis is on Fulham to go up there. It's now time for us to swing it back. And if we get another win, or if we get a win on Sunday and we go to Brighton and maybe get a point, or Villa, and we pick up a point against Villa in those next 3 games, right, it then puts the pressure back on Fulham. Fulham have then got to go and drag themselves out and get results. They're not scoring many goals, although they're not conceding many goals. They're picking points up here and there along the way, which is all right. But if you're having to get claw back an 8-9 point gap, it's not enough.
You need wins, exactly. Nath, same question to you. Are we staying up or are we going down?
I think we'll stay up, but only just. I think there's many twists and turns yet in the season. I think we need I know Bruce was saying that we need one more win, and that's proven to be a load of rubbish. I think maybe another 2 wins would probably do us. I think we need, Fulham they were putting a bit of a run together kind of thing. They were playing better. They made a good account of themselves tonight, but I think that victory tonight, I hope that's broken their spirit a little bit, because they should have got something out of that game. So I hope they go the other way and that kind of breaks their spirit a little bit. And that's what we need. We need them to get a few hard-ins just to keep them to keep the spirits low. I think, because that's what we're going to be relying
to
on.
dampen the fire.
We kind of like. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I think drubbing from them would be ideal, wouldn't it? But I think, for me, I think, unfortunately, we've got. I look at the fixtures there. We need to get our business done by, in March and in April, because after that it's a very difficult run, and then we've got the 2 games at the end of the season, which could be, there'll be cup finals. They could go either way. Those games, especially the one against Fulham. So, the unfortunate thing is for the run of games that are winnable, we don't have our sort of Holy Trinity front three, do we? So, we're gonna have to do it the hard way. But I think what we'll do is, I think we'll make a bit of a meal of these games coming up, and then I think once those 3 are back, in some of the games where we're not expected to win, I think we might get a couple of points there against the odds. I think that might be what happened.
Okay, Daz, what do you think?
For me,
buddy?
yeah. While Nate was chatting there, I went back and got my predictor from Loaded Football Show 6, and I think this is the one. Yeah, so we're still on track. The results I predicted so far are coming good, and we're at that a week ago or so. I was looking for 10 more points, and all I need is 9 more now. So yeah, I think we're going to stay up. It's going to be very close. If Fulham or West Brom get a surprise result along the way, or a few in West Brom's case, a few surprise results, then all bets are off. But yeah, looking good so far. Not good, but looking like we may stay up, I should say. Nothing looks good. Hasn't done all season. But so I think we'll stay up, Martin.
Yeah, no, I think we'll stay up. But I think like Nathan, I think we might pull an odd surprise. I think I am slightly wary about the West Brom game, I have to say. I just, it could just really round off a really shitty week for us. I'm hoping that we get a result, and as you said, it puts a bit of a pep back in our step and dents Fulham. But I think, I think we will stay up, or I think it'll be a combination of a mix of everything and a factor that bottom 3, don't get things. So I think we're going to be relying on a few. I just pray it doesn't come down to the Fulham game and the Sheffield game towards the end of the season, because that will be absolutely horrendous. But anyway, we'll see.
I'm gonna jump in now with 3 pieces of information. One, less than 24 hours ago, or just about 24 hours ago, we had Load of Football Weekly Show 7. Catch it on Steve Wright's show, on Steve Wright's channel, or it's also on our own channel as well. Catch up on the show. Just let you know as well what's happening next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, 10th of March, we'll be back with the usual bits and pieces: loaded headlines, loaded leaderboard, loaded tune. We have special guests, the underclass. We'll have loaded quiz. We have a mystery guest, and it's not Nathan and it's not Pete. So we'll narrow it down. Or Steve Bruce if he's doing nothing else. He only does a 3. Maybe we could join your 3-day week.
Even if he was doing nothing else, I wouldn't bring him on this podcast. I can tell you.
Might be free next Wednesday, hopefully.
Yeah. We've Loaded 11. Follow us on Twitter at Loaded Football. Follow us on Instagram at Loaded Football HQ. And now you know how to subscribe to us on our channel. And just another blast of this. Thanks for watching. Like and comment, and hit that subscribe button. That was the 3 bits of information from me.
Yeah, and that is it. I suppose that's the first one done, just over the hour. We could probably sit here for another 2 hours talking all things Newcastle. And I'm sure, when we get through the weekend, we might do another one of these very early next week, and get the boys back on to talk over the weekend results and stuff. With hopefully Chris and Ritchie will be done delivering Avon and working in B&Q, and they'll come and give us a handout. But obviously, I'd certainly like to thank both Pete and Nathan for coming on tonight. And it was short notice, and we rushed around.
Thanks, lads.
But obviously, two of the best lads that you would want on a show talking all things Newcastle. And obviously, we're delighted that you guys came on the first one that we've done. So thanks very much for that. We wish you a happy evening. Here's hoping for the results, and we may see you on the show next week. And I'm sure we'll probably see some of us will be on the match day live at the weekend, hopefully praying for a result, but we'll see. But yeah,
exactly.
So that's it. So it's good. Good. No worries. Good night from me.
Good night from me, everyone.
And that's it.
Take care, lads.
We'll see you soon.
Thanks, lads.
See you now. Bye-bye.
Take care.